Okay, perfect. Okay, so today, the big thing that we need to get through is dealing with, sorry, where did my page go? We're going to be dealing with screenplays today. So I do have the Making Out story up here. We're going to run through it because it doesn't sound like a lot of people have pre-read that. And then we're going to run through how that gets kind of translated into a screenplay. And I'll use the term convert a lot, like we're converting the story into a screenplay, but it really isn't that way. It's not like a conversion like you would translate it through a language program or through a computer program. It really is something that has to be done in your mind. You're going to read the story, and then you're going to use that information to be able to create the screenplay. But it really is a whole different writing process. And then we'll go through the screenplay assignment, like what it is, how that works, and what the timeline is. And then we'll also look at formatting probably while we're dealing with the Making Out screenplay. And then we'll also get into the Three Little Pigs and kind of get through that. So let me just make sure that we don't have anyone else waiting to join. Okay, perfect. Okay, and then obviously if you've got, I'm hoping that we're going to be done by like 1:15, 1:30 at the latest, because I've got some other stuff that I've got to get done as well. And let's see, Holly, you're saying that Kevin said he can't get into the room. Have him try that link again. If you're communicating with him right now, have him try the link again, because he should be able to. He may need to put in the password that was on the page as well as in the email. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and just bring up the story here in another tab. And if you guys want to bring it up on your computer, you can, or you can just read along here with me. But really the big part is that on your final draft of your short story, the one that you guys are turning in tomorrow, you should have your title. It should have the author. And then obviously it's going to have what class it is, what period, what draft, and definitely make sure that the one you turn in Friday is your final draft, and then the date that that's being done. Let's see. And then this is a story, one of my VP3 classes challenged me. Let's see, sorry, we have someone trying to get in again that's called iPhone. I'm gonna let them in just so that I can explain this to them real quick, and then I'm gonna bump them, so hold on everyone. Okay, good morning. So iPhone, who is our iPhone user? Okay, I'm assuming that iPhone user was Kevin, since that name has now been changed to Kevin. Welcome, Kevin. Or did Kevin just bounce again? Nope, there he is. Okay, perfect. So at certain times during this, we'll go ahead and have certain people talk. So if I'm going to let you unmute yourself, but before you unmute yourself, make sure that you're either wearing headphones so that you can continue to hear while you're talking, or that you've got your speakers muted so that you don't get the feedback loop that you just heard. And that will work. Okay. That's okay, Kevin. The confusion really is just that for safety reasons, we need to make sure that only our students are getting into here. And right now I have it set, I believe I have it set so that all of you can only comment to everyone. You're not allowed to do a private chat. And that's really just for safety, because this isn't a system that the school controls. So we just want to make sure that you guys are safe. You can do private chats. Okay. Let me see where I can change that setting, because I had here that participant can chat with everyone publicly. That's frustrating. Okay. Sorry, everyone. Give me just a sec. I'm going to check one thing in my other settings here. You can watch my dog for a little bit. Okay, let's see if we've got this fixed. Okay, on the left menu. Okay, I'm sorry, everyone. I can not locate the part where I need to change the setting. So if somebody private messages you in here and is causing an issue, certainly please let me know, or just block them for your safety. And I will work on that for future ones, being able to completely eliminate that as an option. Oh, is it right here? No. Okay, I'm sorry, everyone, but I do want to get moving along on this. So we'll go ahead and jump back into the Zoom. Oh, so Allison asked, what's wrong with private messages? So private messages, the big thing is we don't want a student to be able to harass you, really. And so because I can't see private messages that are going from one student to another, as in when we're in the classroom, sometimes I can hear it or see that you're chatting with someone. We just want to make sure that you're being safe. So that's really the big thing. Okay, so anyways, back to the story here. A few years ago, my Video 3 class had challenged me to write a short story and do the project along with them. So this is one that I wrote, and it's been modified a few times along the way, but we'll run through it real quick. So Sammy and Tim had been dating for about 3 weeks. As most teenage romances do, this one was burning hot and fast. Tim was, for the most part, a typical teenage boy. He was tall for his age, had dark brown hair, almost black, and deep brown eyes. He had gotten up in the morning, had breakfast, and hurried off to school. As soon as school was finished, he rushed over to Sammy's house, only to find that her mother was already home from work. So who can tell me what we already know about Tim at this point in the story? He has dark hair. Okay, thank you, Allison. That's one good point. Anyone else have an idea? What do you think the author means by a typical teenage boy? Rambunctious, possibly. Okay, so typical teenage boy is very generalized, and that's a very huge, wide stereotype. One of the things that we need to do in short stories and short films is to stereotype people. And we're not doing that in a negative way. We're trying to do it in a either positive or a neutral way. So if we wanted to show that someone was really smart and really enjoyed school, if we had them in their bedroom and say their desk was very neatly organized and they had school books piled up and some homework ready to go, that could show the audience that that student was very involved in school. Whereas if they were very involved in sports, we might have some trophies, we might have some athletic gear in the room with them or something like that. So keep in mind that we do use stereotypes often, and we're trying not to use them in a negative way. So Sammy's mom was already home from work. So as he reached the door, Tim was greeted by on the porch by Sammy. Sammy quickly hurried Tim to the door and up the stairs to her bedroom. As she was walking, Tim slowly checked out his girl, as he often referred to her as. Sammy was also, for the most part, a typical teenage girl. She was medium height, had blue eyes, and was dressed in her latest acquisition from the mall, a pair of Gap jeans and a simple cream-colored top. Her dyed deep black hair had been her style for a month or so now, her blonde roots almost covering the whole top of her head as it grew out. As they shuffled into Sammy's room, she was careful to follow her mom's rules about having her door open at least 1 foot at all times. She didn't, however, follow the rule about no boys in the house when mom doesn't know about it. Sammy slowly sat down on her bed, simultaneously checking over her room for any stray dirty laundry or messes. Her lipstick was all lined up on her makeup area, which used to be the desk she studied at in middle school. So who can tell us some information about Sammy at this point? Feel free to pop that into the comments. Or if you'd rather say it, feel free to unmute yourself. So Danielle said she listens to her mom for the most part. Allison says she's a bit of a rebel. She disregards rules and dyes her hair. She's stereotyped as a typical teenage girl. Good. Now, does a stereotype of a typical teenage girl give you a lot of information? No, definitely doesn't. Okay, so we've got some basic information about Sammy at this point. So then Sammy motioned for Tim to sit by her on her daybed. It was one of those new but old-looking metal daybeds. It had a pink comforter draped over the mattress that came down all the way to the floor, perfect for hiding things that she didn't want her mother to easily find. Along the sides and back, she had frilly pillows intermixed with stuffed animals. He was standing in the near dark on one side of her room, near her overstuffed chair. Sorry, that really should say Tim. The chair was empty now, but becomes a mound of stuffed animals and extra pillows when Sammy goes to bed at night. Tim crossed the beam of light and walked to bed. He couldn't resist commenting on the stickers that were stuck around her mirror. Justin Bieber, he laughed. He's such a dork. Yes, he is, Sammy responded quickly. I can't believe I listened to him before I discovered death metal. Sure enough, Sammy and Tim began making out as they usually did when they were near each other. It didn't matter whether they were in his car, in her room, or in the cafeteria at school. If they were together, they were making out. These PDAs, or public displays of affection, were really awkward and annoying to Sammy's longtime friends. Tim had been pestering Sammy to be his full-time girlfriend for a week or so, but she just wasn't ready. In between kisses, Tim started again. Sammy, he said before taking a deep breath, run away with me. I'm almost 18. We can just get in that car of mine and head west. Tim's parents weren't around much, and when they were fighting with Tim or each other. They fought about anything and everything. It didn't seem to matter what time of the day it was or how much they'd been drinking. The fighting was never ending. So do we have some more information about Tim or Sammy in this last paragraph or section? Go ahead and pop that into the comments if you can. Tim's a bit of a delinquent. Nice. Tim wants to run away. Good. Brandon, why do you think Tim wants to run away? Tim's parents are always fighting. Explaining maybe he doesn't have a safe environment at home. Good, because his parents fight a lot. Good, good. Okay, so Sammy had been listening to Tim, but more importantly, had been listening for her mother. Footsteps were heard coming closer. Sammy quickly pushed Tim off of her and sat up with a jolt. All of a sudden, from her soft pink lips sprang, "I didn't think we had homework in algebra tonight. Pass me my book and we can review chapter 8 for the quiz tomorrow." Okay. The beam of light that stretched across her room from the door became black as her mother passed, blocking the light from the hall. Sammy crossed her fingers, hoping that she'd just keep walking without any luck. Her mother paused, pushed the door open a bit more, and peeked her head in. Noticing Tim, she shifted her gaze to Sammy. Sammy knew that look. It was the look that meant she'd be grounded for at least a week once they talked. But that would be after Tim left. Sammy's mom didn't believe in airing her family's dirty laundry while guests were there. Her mother pushed the door open another few inches and flicked on the light in Sammy's room before she said, "Make sure to finish your studying before 6 and come down for dinner. Your friend can go home and we can talk." As suddenly as she had appeared in the doorway, she was gone. As her mother's footsteps became quieter, Sammy softly said, "I love you, but I'm just not in love with you. My mom's a bitch, but it's not bad enough yet for me to leave." Tim stood up from the bed and in a very sarcastic tone, which bordered on anger, said, "I thought you were with me. I could have been with other girls. How much have I wasted on this relationship with you? How many times have I bought you lunch?" 5 times. 5 times I've bought you lunch. I thought this was serious." Tim grabbed his jacket and headed to the door, fast enough to seem like he was going to leave, but slow enough for Sammy to not let him go. Tim was good at this trick. For him, it worked every time, with every girl, every time. So what more do we know about Sammy and Tim at this point? Sam likes Tim, but not as much as Tim likes her. Maybe she isn't ready for a commitment. Tim's parents are too controlling. Tim dates around. Tim seems like he is manipulating Sammy. Good note, Sam. He tries to manipulate her. Good. Okay. Now let's go a little bit more. So we've got Sammy cried out in what best, oh, Tim has social issues. Nice. Sammy cried out in what best could have been described as a loud whisper. "Wait, I'm sorry. I do love you. This is serious. I'll do anything for you." She reached over to her stereo and hit play on the CD player. A soft goth song started to play at medium volume, just loud enough to block her mom from hearing the inevitable argument between Sammy and Tim that was sure to follow. With amazing grace and agility, Tim strutted back to Sammy's daybed. He had done it once again. He was proud and almost amazed at how well that get up and leave in a huff trick worked. He calmly but sadly responded with, "Okay, let's not fight. Where were we?" Of course, Sammy and Tim went right back to making out, something that Sammy was sure to regret. 2 years, many fights, and many dates later, she had to drop out of high school and take classes at the Young Mother Center. Tim left her when he found out about the baby. He claimed that it wasn't his, and that she'd been sleeping around. He headed on to greener, not pregnant pastures by the name of Sally. Sammy was still resentful of her mother. Looking back now, though, she had a better understanding of why there were always 2 rules in the house. 1, your door must always be open at least 1 foot, and 2, there were no boys allowed in the room when her mother wasn't home or didn't know. Okay, so Story had a little bit of a moral at the end, but did we learn anything more about Sammy and Tim? Tammy didn't really love Sam. Yes, that's true. Sammy eventually got pregnant. Good, Sam. I noticed that you had said eventually because the story did not ever say that they had sex there. Okay, even after how long they'd been together, he didn't trust Sammy. Okay, so do you think that Tim needed to trust Sammy, or was that just an excuse to get out of the relationship? Danielle, maybe he knew this is good, but he wasn't ready. Yes, to get out. Okay. So tell me, what age do you think Sammy is? It seems to be kind of a common thing. Okay. 16 at the beginning. Okay. How old do you think Tim is or was in the story? Tim was 28. So Sam, they were both in high school. I think it says it in the beginning. Oh, okay. 18. Okay. Because he also talked about buying her lunch at school and stuff like that. So Tim was 18. He got held back. It's funny. Okay, good. So you definitely kind of get a feeling that Tim is older than Sammy. Um, Tim definitely, I think, drove a car because I think it said, yes, they made out in his car. Um, and which kind of gives the impression that possibly Sammy doesn't drive yet, which might put her under 16 or right around there. Okay, good. Okay, now, one of the big critical pieces that we need after we read a story and we're getting ready for the screenplay is to come up with what our characters look like. Because in here, there's a lot of information um, about them, and it's mixed throughout the story. But the actors need that information usually up front so that they know what that character is going to be, what the motivation is, all that sort of stuff. So we need to make sure. Oh, sorry. Thank you. Thank you, Danielle, or Rose. I'm sorry, Rose. Didn't mean to leave you in the waiting room. Okay, so like I was saying, we need to make sure that we've got as much information about the characters up front for the actors as possible. So when we look at the screenplay, here's our screenplay. The title page looks similar. So we have Making Out. And so the screenwriter is me, Keith Pickering-Walters, but the story is also by me. In this particular situation, I wrote the screenplay for this story. In most situations, the screenwriter is not the same person as the original author. So that can sometimes cause issues because it's very possible that you might be assigned a story from an author who's dead or has already passed. And as the screenwriter, you're having to come up with information to fill the holes that might be missing. So it's obviously a lot easier when you're the screenwriter for your own story, but that normally is not how it is in the industry. Obviously, we've got our period, the date, the rough draft, and then I've got that it was updated at a certain point in time. So right off the bat, we've got the title of the story or the screenplay again here, Making Out, and we have our characters. So, excuse me. So we have Tim and we have Sammy. Now, you can introduce your characters as the story goes on, and just before the characters being announced, we'll insert them into the screenplay here like this. because Tim and Sammy are kind of the two main characters, the principal characters, I chose to put them just up front right away. Some people will do that in their screenplays. Sometimes you also have what's called a master catalog, and that master catalog is a whole separate document that has your characters in it and things like that. But here we have Tim. The description that I pulled out of all of that was he's a teenage boy, tall, dark hair, brown eyes, normally wears jeans and a sports jersey. He has good manipulation skills and sees himself as a player. His parents were alcoholics and fight constantly with him and with each other. Okay, so a little bit of information about him. Sammy, teenage girl, medium height, blonde hair, dyed black, some blonde roots showing, especially in the beginning of the story. Blue eyes, normally wears typical trendy Gap fashions with some goth accessories mixed in, has recently been changing her style and hanging out with a different set of friends. Listens to death metal and 80s goth. So a few more specifics about Sammy. Now, this next line right here is called a slug line. And what do you guys think int might stand for? So we're looking at the int Sammy's bedroom late afternoon. Initiate, that's a good guess. The opposite would be like exterior Sammy's house, or EXT. Sorry, I guess I just gave most of that away. So int is interior. So it's going to be an interior shot. We might also have an exterior shot. Typically, we'll always start with that. Then we've got the location, Sammy's bedroom. And then we'll usually have the time of day. And this could be like 9 o'clock in the morning. If it's very specific, it could be early morning, could be late afternoon or anything else. And Rose, I'm just going to mute you real quick. Yep, there you go. But if you do have a comment, feel free to unmute and jump in. If you have a comment, if you've got a question, try to pop it into the chat box down here. But again, the slug line is kind of critical pieces for us, because if we left Sammy's bedroom and went somewhere else and came back to Sammy's bedroom, we would simply write int Sammy's bedroom early evening if it was coming back shortly after. And we would not need in the future to write all of this additional information. This we really just need one time, and it's the description of that location. Oh, thanks, Danielle. I saw him up there. I popped him in. So Tommy should be here. Yep. So in the description of the location of Sammy's bedroom, here's the description that I pulled out of the story. And obviously some of this also got added in afterwards because we needed more details than the story had. So at first glance, the room looks like a typical teenage girl's room. A daybed with pillows and stuffed animals around the sides and back of it is on one side of the room. There's an overstuffed chair on the other side of the room. There's a very outdated and small desk or makeup area with a small padded chair and a mirror. The desk has a variety of makeup items neatly lined up around the back and sides. The mirror has several layers of stickers around the border. Disney's Hannah Montana and High School Musical are prominently featured on the first layer, with preteen singers like Justin Bieber and Hilary Duff partly covering those stickers. Randomly covering parts of those stickers are very dark and bold goth stickers, notably The Cure and Morbid Angel. The top layer of stickers are very new. The door to Sammy's bedroom is always cracked open about a foot, a demand that her mother placed on her when she started having friends over after school. So that last part is kind of just a note on why, but we don't usually need a lot of information about why things are that way. So when in the story, it talked about it was her desk that she studied at, and now it's kind of her makeup area. I didn't go into a lot of details about why that changed, but we have that. And then I think the sticker part is kind of important, because if we're trying to stereotype and give our audience an idea that Sammy has been kind of going through these changes and changing rather quickly, we want to kind of be able to quickly show that there's this change that's been happening, and the stickers are kind of a way of visually showing that change of attitude and whatnot. Now, why is the lighting description in all caps? The lighting description is in all caps because of formatting. It's just what we do for lighting. So here you have dim lighting from closed blinds, a bright stream of light shining through a partly open door from the hallway. If I saw that in a screenplay on any page, I should be able to recognize right away that that's a lighting piece. And why that's important is because this screenplay will get broken apart and different portions will go off to different crew members. So our gaffer, who's in charge of setting up all the lighting, is going to have the slug line of interior Sammy's bedroom and what the lighting is. And our set designer or set dresser is going to have the information about the slug line and the description of that location and what needs to go in there. So what furniture they need to locate at the thrift stores, what clothing, things like that. Then another thing that is in all caps is our camera angles. So here we have a low angle medium shot from the floor looking up to the side of the bed and 4 legs intertwined hanging off the bed. So this is describing what we're actually seeing in the camera. Okay, there's no action in this yet. We see that there are legs and they're hanging off the bed, but it isn't like the legs are swinging or Sammy and Tim are making out. There's no information about action. It's kind of if we paused it and we just described what we looked at, what we were seeing on the screen at that given moment. So our camera shot should always just be the shot and what we're looking at. Should never include any action. Tim and Sammy are making out, laying sideways across the bed. Now, this is action right here. So Tim and Sammy, their names are capitalized because a lot of the times people like to highlight the names of the actors so that when actors are going through the script or screenplay, they can find themselves very quickly. This is kind of optional. You certainly don't have to capitalize everyone's names. It was just done in this particular situation. So Tim and Sammy are making out, laying sideways across the bed. Then Tim, OS. And we've got Sammy, why don't we run away together? I'm almost 18. We can take my car and just drive away from all of this. What do you guys think the OS stands for? Jaden, that's a great guess. On screen, outspoken, that's a good guess also. It's actually off screen. So if you remember our camera shot here, we're seeing a low angle medium shot from the floor looking up to the side of the bed. So all we're seeing are legs. And Tim and Sammy are making out. That's telling the actors what they're needing to do. But when the dialogue starts, we can't actually see Tim. So it's this Tim, it's a line that he's saying off screen. Sammy, why don't we run away together? So the audience is hearing this, but we're not actually seeing his voice or his mouth move at all. Then we switch to an eye level medium shot. So now we're kind of up looking at the whole bed and we hear footsteps from the end of the hallway getting closer. Now, this is a sound effect because we're not going to see her. And so we're just going to use afterwards in editing, we're going to have the sound effect of footsteps getting closer to them. So our editor's going to definitely need this information. That would get broken out for them. It's a sound effect. We don't want to necessarily write sound effect footsteps because we want the screenplay to flow better. And that's why we do it with formatting. So then here's some more action. Sammy suddenly sits upright on the bed. And then Sammy, loudly for mom to hear. So just a little parenthetical, some information about how she's saying it. I didn't think we had homework in algebra tonight. Pass me my book and we can review chapter 8 for the quiz tomorrow. Then another lighting issue, a shadow crosses the beam of light from the door. And it's kind of actually, yeah, I'm using it as lighting in that situation, but it could almost be action. And then we have a medium wide shot of Sammy and Tim sitting on the bed. And an extreme close-up. So we're going to cut from that shot of Sammy and Tim sitting on the bed. We're going to cut into an extreme close-up of Sammy's hand behind her with her fingers crossed. And then we'll go back to that medium wide shot because this is just a cut in, so it's temporary. So we go back to this. And then we have a point of view shot on the door opening. So because the previous shot was this medium wide shot of Sammy and Tim sitting on the bed, when we go to a POV shot, we're going to the POV shot of Sammy, and we're looking at the doorway with her mom. And so Sammy's mom stops in the hallway and peeks into the bedroom, looking straight at Sammy, really looking at the camera. And this is action again. And then we have another shot. We have a reverse shot of Sammy and Tim sitting on the bed. So it's kind of a POV shot from the mom, but it's really just going back to that reverse shot so that we're seeing Sammy and Tim again. Then we cut back to a POV shot of Sammy's mom. Sammy's mom's head turns slightly left of camera as she notices Tim. She shifts her view back to Sammy, which is the camera, with the look. After an awkward pause, Sammy's mom begins to speak. And then Sammy's mom says sternly, "Make sure to finish your studying before 6 and come down for dinner. Your friend can go home and we can talk." Then we get the POV shot of the doorway of Sammy's mom again. And then Sammy's mom deliberately pushes the door open an additional few inches, then retreats from the doorway. Then our sound effect again, footsteps are heard heading down the hallway away from the room. And then we have some more dialogue. That's really easy to visually see what it is. And then we have an extreme close-up shot on Tim's eyes and forehead, dollying back to a medium shot. And then we have Tim saying this information. We have another shot, a medium wide shot, zooming out to a wide shot. For the Three Little Pigs, is there a minimum or maximum number of pages we need? Sam, that's a good question. I will get to that in just a little bit. And so then it just continues on the same way. And you can see that we've got a variety of shots. We've got some dialogue. We have some action. And as you skim through this, you can kind of see where all of these pieces are and what they do. So formatting is super important in all of this. And one thing that I have for you that I'm just going to touch on briefly, but I want you to look at later is this piece right here, and it's the formatting. And what we did on this was, excuse me, we did it as sample formatting. So as we're reading through this, we're actually using the formatting of a screenplay, but we're talking about that formatting. So your document as a whole should always be formatted with a 1-inch margin on the top. So that's up here, 1-inch margin at the bottom and the right-hand side. But we have a 1.5-inch margin on the left side. We're always going to use the font Courier at a size of 12 point. Do not use colons or quotes, and don't identify what the item is. We'll simply know that based on what that formatting is. So here we have in capital letters the character's name, and then in upper and lowercase or sentence caps, we have each character is identified by name. Write the character's name on the one line in all caps. And then we have the character's description. So then return down to the next line and begin writing a description of that character. So this is going to be formatted to regular margins, and it's going to be sentence cased. So if we go back over to our screenplay here, when we had our descriptions of Tim and Sammy, you can see that we've got their name in all caps, and then we have the description of them, their name in all caps, and the description of them. When we're doing the Three Little Pigs, we might have pig 1, pig 2, pig 3, or we could identify them as the straw pig, the stick pig, and the brick pig. And then we might have the pig's mom, because I think she kicks them out of the house at the basis of the beginning of most stories. And then we have our setting title, which is called a slug line. And there's some information about that. And then our setting description, when we hit the return and go to that next line, we're going to describe that location. And then in all caps, we have our camera angles, camera movements. In all caps, you could have lighting. You could have the type of the shot listed if needed. And if you have a change in camera angle or any of those things, you want to specify it in all caps and then format it to regular margins. So anytime we're talking about regular margins, we're talking about these, the 1-inch margin on top, right, and bottom, and 1.5 on the left-hand side. Then here, when we get into character title and description, if they're new to a scene, so if we've begun a new scene and say now the wolf is going to enter the scene, we might pause and put the wolf here and describe the wolf character, because we didn't need to know the wolf up front because they're not in the first couple of scenes, but we might need the wolf later on. So that's where I would personally put them into the screenplay. Excuse me, unless I was working with a master catalog. And then for our character name, when they're doing their speaking, it's going to be centered and it's going to be in all caps. So that's where, when we look at our screenplay, let me find one. Here's Tim off screen. This is centered and it's in all caps. But you'll notice that there's this weird gap here on both sides of the dialogue. And that's because of how dialogue gets formatted. So we have the character's name in all caps, centered. Then we go back to left justified, and we have the character's dialogue. And it's formatted with an extra 1 inch on the left and 1 inch on the right. And I'll show you in Google Docs exactly how to do that as we're writing the Three Little Pigs in a little bit. And then action is formatted to regular margins, and it's intermixed with dialogue. So you could have dialogue, action, whatnot. And then you just kind of basically keep moving through. So we have our camera angles if there's more stuff that's happening or if the shot changes. And then anytime we come to a different location, we're always going to include that slug line, okay? If the location is somewhere where we've never been, then we definitely need to do a description of it, okay? But if Sammy had left her bedroom, went down to the kitchen, we'd then have now the kitchen, we'd need to describe the kitchen. But then when she went back up to her bedroom, because there hasn't been a dramatic change to the bedroom, we would not need to write a description of that location. We would only write the slug line. So it'd be int Sammy's bedroom, late afternoon or whatever it is. And then all of this stuff just kind of gets jumbled together as you're moving through it. So does that make sense to people for the most part? Go ahead and give me a little yes or a thumbs up or something in the comments if this is making sense to you. Okay. And if it's mostly, okay. If it's super confusing or if there's a piece of it that you're not sure about, that's why we're going to be doing a rough draft of the screenplay. So, and why we're doing the Three Little Pigs. So don't stress too much. Now, our Three Little Pigs, we've got, this is the traditional story of it. So you've got Mom Pig here. She kicks the Three Little Pigs out. She's like, I don't have enough to feed you anymore. You're 18, get out of my house. Say they send them off. And then here's a description of the first little pig, the third little pig, and the second little pig. And then we've got stuff that happened with the wolf and all that sort of stuff, okay? So if you need to review that story, you certainly can. But I'm going to go ahead and go over to a tab for Google. And here I'm in my drive. And I'm just going to go New, Google Doc. And Brandon, that's a good question when it's due. I'll get to that in a little bit. The Three Little Pigs, you should be able to write tonight and tomorrow and have that done by tomorrow afternoon. But the screenplay one is a much longer term piece. We need to have our finished stories done for that. So here, definitely make sure that you put in your title for this. So this is going to be Three Little Pigs screenplay. And then right off the bat, I want to make sure that I set my overall margins. So I'm going to go to File and Page Setup. And I'm sorry if this is like super obvious to some of you. Now, I have already set as my default 1, 1, 1.5, and 1. Chances are your default is set at 1, 1, 1, 1, or it might be 1, 1, 1.5, and 1.5. The reason we only do the 1.5 on the left side is because we're only going to ever print this single-sided. If we were submitting this to a production company or someone else to read, we never do it double-sided. And I'm not 100% sure why they've never changed to saving paper, but industry-wise, this is just never ever printed double-sided. For us, we'll print double-sided sometimes just to save paper in class, but if this was being sent off, it would never be double-sided. So that's why it's only the 1.5 on one side. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and do my title page. So I'm going to have 3 little pigs. And this is by Pickering-Walters. Original tale by who? By, well, let's just use Sammy. So Tammy wrote the original tale. Sammy did. I have no idea who wrote that. And then we've got our date. So today is 3/20. Is it the 26th already? Yes, 26th, 2020. And I'm just going to do rough draft on this first off. Okay, now this, because it's my my title page, I'm going to have this all be centered. So I'm going to change that centering to there. And then I want my font, instead of being Arial, I want it to be Courier. And I'm going to actually select everything, just hit Command A or Control A, and I'm going to change this to Courier, and I'm going to set it to 12 for our font size. Okay, now once I've done my title page, I want to get down to a new fresh page, and it's really important to say insert, break, page break, and this pushes my cursor down to the next page. I don't want to hit a bunch of returns in here, because if I go back and add anything up here, it's going to mess up my next page. But now if I hit a bunch of returns here and bring that rough draft and the date down to the bottom, my cursor is still at the top of this page here. It hasn't done anything to mess that up. Oh, screen share. Sorry. Allison, can you guys not see my Google Doc right now? Okay. So Allison, are you seeing, oh, it's really small. Okay, thank you guys. Sorry. Let me see if I can do that better. New share. No, actually I'm on Safari. Let me slide these things out of the way a bit and go in closer. Okay, is that better for folks? Allison, is that better? Okay, so Allison, right now you should be able to see, are you just seeing me like on your entire screen? Because that would be horrible. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. So up in the upper right corner of your screen, you're gonna see, it'll say like talking Keith Pickering-Walters, and there should be like a single box, a double box, and a whole bunch of boxes there. If you click the hide thumbnail video, that should show you the big thing over on the side. And if that doesn't work for you, it will be visible in the video afterwards. So when I upload that video, you'll be able to see that. But I'm going to try to wrap this up within 7 minutes. So we'll cruise forward a little bit more. So now with our 3 Little Pigs screenplay, we can go ahead and start off with our character descriptions. So I'm going to do, I'm going to put my caps lock down for now, and I'm just going to put the straw pig. And then I'm going to come down a bit, and I'm going to do the stick pig. And then I'm going to do the brick pig. And then I'll do pig mom. Okay, and here I would just go ahead and describe the straw pig. If we had lots more time, I'd have you guys shout out like what the straw pig looks like and stuff, but I'm just gonna put, you know, skinny, tan pig with coarse hair. And yes, it is totally okay to describe the wolf in here if you want. I personally, I would hold off and describe the wolf when he comes into the story, but yes, you can certainly do that. And then our stick pig, I'm going to put slightly fatter than the straw pig. Brown with tan spots and soft hair. And then our brick pig, I'm going to put really large pig, brown with black spots. And then our pig mom, ginormous, and has eaten everything in the house. Is tired of taking care of her children. Okay. Now, if we needed more information about them, we certainly could. The detail of our character really kind of varies story to story. So where do you think our Three Little Pigs screenplay should start? Should we start inside the house? Should we start outside the house? Should we start on the road? Where do you guys think we should start this? And nobody's responding. Okay, well, I'm just going to do porch. So I'm going to do exterior, mom pig's house, late morning. Okay, and then we have a little bit of action here, or we need a shot first. So I'm just going to do a wide shot. Of 4 pigs. Then, oh, up here, I also need to describe this. So I'm going to put small wooden house with a porch. Yeah, I'm just going to leave it at that. And so we have our wide establishing shot of the 4 pigs. Then I'm going to have the mom pig stands on the front porch with a rake and is yelling at her children. Okay, so then we have some dialogue here. So we're going to now center our text. And this is going to be mom pig. And then I'm going to go back to left justified. And this is where it gets kind of tweaky. What we need to do is we need to modify our margins here. So let me get rid of, can I get rid of that? Yes. So what I want to do is take this margin and I'm going to come in 1 extra inch, and I'm going to take this margin and I'm going to go back 1 extra inch. And so now I'm here and I can have mom, I'm going to have mom write a lot so that it goes over multiple lines, but mom's yelling, you lazy pigs, you never do anything to help clean up the house, and you eat too much food. Last week, you ate my Twinkies. Get out and find your own home. Okay, now if we have some more action now, I need to go back to my regular margins. So I'm going to pull these little guys out here. And then I'll go ahead and have the straw pig runs off screen quickly. The stick pig hangs out for a bit and then leaves. The brick pig pleads with his mother to allow him to stay. But eventually leaves. Nope, I'm going to leave that eventually leaves off because we're going to have the pig talk real quick. So we're going to go to center and we'll do brick pig. And then we're going to go back to left justified, pull in our margins. And now the brick pig is going to say, but mom, I love you. Don't send us away. I will eat less. I promise. And I didn't eat your Twinkies. Okay, then we're going to stay left justified, but we're going to bring out to our shots. And now maybe we have a close-up shot of mom. And mom, let's see, mom pig swings her rake at the brick pig. And he runs, no, brick pig runs away off screen. Okay. And does that make sense to people? So if you forget to do something and you need to add it in, so maybe here we have the straw pig runs off and then the brick pig is here. I might want another shot here. Rather than stay in the wide establishing shot, we might want a medium shot of mom and brick pig. Okay, and so you can add those things in afterwards, and you can obviously change formatting even afterwards. I would definitely recommend to set your initial margins first before you get into anything else. But say I forgot to do something correctly, and I wrote this wide establishing shot as wide establishing shot of 4 pigs. Okay, if I wrote that as all lowercase and it shouldn't be, rather than delete it all and go back, a cool thing are the add-ons in Google. And if you haven't already gotten this add-on called Change Case, I would highly recommend it. And you can just go to Get Add-ons, look for Change Case. It's got like a blue icon for it. And here I can go change case and I can choose what I want that case to be. So if I want it to be all uppercase, I can choose that and boom, it changes it for me. If I want it to be sentence case, then I can do change case, sentence case, and it will do that for me. So this can save you a lot of correcting later on and retyping. Oops, I didn't highlight it, sorry. And we'll fix that back to all uppercase. So again, that's called Change Case, and it's inside the Get Add-ons, and you can take care of getting that. And so what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to go ahead and utilize this Google Doc. I'll share it with all of you as soon as we're done with this. And then go ahead and continue on. If you want to add the wolf up here, go ahead. If you want to add more description of them, that's totally fine. Certainly change the title page so that it's you. And then continue on with the story and run through. And just kind of keep in your mind that every time you change the camera angle, every time we're looking at something different, we want to use a new shot for that, okay? And then ideally, I'd like folks to be able to turn that in tomorrow. If you've got questions, I'll hop on Zoom tomorrow at 12:30. If you're having issues with it or just need a quick session, we'll just do 12:30 until 12:45. And I'll stay later if people have more questions, but I'll just check in. I'll be on there for 15 minutes. And if you want to stop by, feel free to. If you don't want to, you don't have to. And that'll work. Now, when you finish the story you started writing, is that the one you're going to turn in? Yes, no. So this story right here, I'll share it with all of you. And then what I'd like you to do is continue this story or modify this one and change the name to be your name. And go ahead and turn this in to me. So you can print it as a PDF and upload it to turnin.com. That'll be the easiest way to turn that in. I'll have that assignment up on School Loop. 3 pigs. Okay. And then let me just jump back over here real quick. So your actual screenplay this is the grading sheet for it. So you're graded on formatting and length, the formatting and grammar, the story conversion, audio angles and lighting, as well as setting character descriptions. And it's overall worth 70 points for the final draft. We are going to have some previous or some other versions. So on the screenplay assignment, you're going to have a rough draft, and normally you would bring that into class. We'll have you just upload it, and we'll do a peer review like we did on the other one. So I'll add in a peer mark here, and then our final draft will be due after that. But sorry. So here's all the details about it. Excuse me. Give this a read when you can, but I'll go over it, more next week because your rough draft of the screenplay isn't due until April 18th. So take the vacation off. Definitely take some time next week to read through the short story. And here's how that's going to work. So when the final draft stories are turned in, turnin.com is going to send all of you 2 stories, kind of like the peer mark, but instead of reviewing them, you're going to just choose which story you're going to convert into a screenplay. So you're not going to be converting your own short story as a screenplay. You're going to be reading someone else's story, interpreting that story, and writing that as a screenplay. It's much more fun and much more realistic. And then don't forget that we have our final draft of the short story due tomorrow. And the sequences quiz should be up. I'm working on that, finishing it up. It should be up tonight. So you can study that and then take that quiz whenever you want. Folks have been doing really good on the quizzes. Is Quizlet fairly easy for you? It lets you kind of study a little bit and then do that and all of that. So yeah. So any other questions? So I want to let you guys go. I don't want to hold you much longer. Okay, and I will throw this video up afterwards. I'm just going to trim a little bit out of it and then upload it. And so if you need to go back and review anything, you certainly can. Feel free to email me questions. And while you're working on the 3 Little Pigs activity this afternoon, evening, and tomorrow morning, feel free to send me questions on email if you're having an issue with something. And then we'll have you upload those tomorrow evening-ish. Yeah. Friday-ish. And so the more detail is here about the Three Little Pigs. For homework, we are going to have you, once you get those short stories from everyone on Monday, then you're going to read through them, choose which one you want, and by Tuesday afternoon, you're going to actually write your character descriptions. So that'll just be the character descriptions for the story. So it should be two characters ideally. And then you're going to do your location description, or the slug lines, and describe those locations by Wednesday. And then, hang on, your rough draft of your screenplay is not due by Thursday, April 2nd. Sorry, your rough draft is due Thursday, the 18th of April. So I will fix that. Yeah, we're not rushing it that fast. And yeah, but we are going to do the character descriptions and the location descriptions, and then you'll have some time to read, relax. If you want to work on the rough draft before break, that's fine. If you want to work on it when we're back from break, that is fine as well, because we'll have a couple of weeks for that. Is the Three Little Pigs assignment due tomorrow? Yes, I would love to have that tomorrow afternoon. So go ahead and turn that in. Then spend some time today and whatnot finishing up your final draft of your short story. If you're having any issues with your short story, feel free to send me some emails, or I'll stay on the Zoom a little bit later for a few minutes. I'll wait until everyone leaves. So feel free to pop some more questions if you have questions on that. And okay. And let's see, I think that's it. So if you have any questions or issues, go ahead and either turn on your microphone and shout them out, or pop them into the question box there. And other than that, you guys are free to go. Thank you so much for coming by and participating.
What time's the Three Little Pigs assignment due tomorrow?
You know, I probably won't get to it until after dinner time. So I would say if you can get it in, you know, anytime before 7 or 8 is fine. I know you guys' schedules are out of whack, and every teacher is assigning you weird things at weird times. So whatever works best for you. And if you're not able to get it done by Friday night and it takes you till Saturday, that's fine too. I just want to try to be able to give you some feedback on those by Sunday night, so that when you're getting started on your character descriptions and stuff, you have a better sense of that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.